So, hello and welcome everybody to Renate's farm. I'm very happy that we can have another talk this morning with Anjii Bryers. And the talk is going to be about hypnotherapy and trauma. And yeah, so welcome everybody. Welcome, Anjii.
Thank you.
Hi. So before we start, I would like to introduce you a bit and how we got to meet each other. So about 2 years ago, Anjii came to Austria and visited her brother. And I was lucky to show them around and give them a tour through Vienna. And then the other day, we somehow called and Anjii said, well, I have to come and see you on your farm and I have to meet your animals. And well, of course, I was lucky to invite her. And then we spent the most amazing day ever together. And yeah, and this was really an encounter which was life-changing for me. And yeah, so that's how we met. And since then, I have learned a lot and could change a lot and got really a lot of new insights and knowing. And yeah, and I really appreciate the changes which were possible in my life through the encounter with Anjii. And yeah, therefore I'm especially lucky that we can talk about Anjii's work today. So Anjii is a clinical hypnotherapist and a trauma relief therapist and a Reiki Sage Master and a death doula and yeah, and also an animal communicator. We talked about this last week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this talk. And when you have a question, so please send it in the chat and we will then afterwards you have the chance to ask your questions as well. Okay, so then it's up to you, Anjii. Yeah, and Anjii is from Australia. So it's always nice when we talk. It's really the opposite end of the world.
Yes. I have dogs staying with me. I work with traumatized dogs and I have 2 dogs here and one's just decided to have a chat. So I apologize for that, but we will have them with us tonight. Yes, I did meet Renate when I visited my brother and Ernst, and there's just always been a kinship and a feeling that, you know, we've known each other before. And the first day I was walking the farm, you know, I felt like I was riding a horse, an American Indian riding a horse. And I felt that Renate was also an Indian riding a horse. And but hypnosis and trauma is something that I learned through my own self-experience. So growing up, I had a traumatic childhood, and you know, I understand now that I had PTSD from childhood, and you know, so did most of my siblings. And it wasn't until I had a gentleman decide that if he couldn't have me, no one would, in 1995, and he attacked me and threw me into a burning fireplace and into a glass mirror. And I spent, you know, a month in hospital, and he rang the hospital pretending to be my dad and got on to me and told me that he couldn't get to me, but he could get to my son. And so my son was shot out of the country and brought straight across to Australia to his father's grandparents here. And when I was let out of hospital, I was sort of in Auckland for a week, and then they said the guys turned up in Auckland and we need to get you out of here as well. So I was shot across to Australia. Now the PTSD that I had, my body shook, uncontrollably for about 6 months. I was having seizures, and that would be where my body would start shaking uncontrollably and my eyes rolling in my head, and it looked awful to other people, but to me, I was stuck inside there and I couldn't get out. It's almost like I was going, I'm okay, but I couldn't get the words out. And I was going through the normal psych system. So they had me, seeing psychologists and on beta blockers and things like that. And it was more traumatizing for me than anything else, because you couldn't think and you couldn't sleep, but you couldn't wake up, and I had these nightmares all the time, and then I had nightmares running over my day vision. So it's like, if we were standing here talking, there's sort of a dream running across in front of us, and I would be constantly trying to differentiate between the nightmare that I'm seeing and the person I'm talking to. And it really, all of these things made me quite suicidal. And having some treatments, like meeting yet again a new psychologist, and within the first 5 minutes, they're all there to help heal your life. And this guy said to me, I'm Dr. And he'd have a seat, and he said, here, Angie, have an almond, and he handed me a bowl of almonds. And I said, no thanks. And he said, please have an almond. And anyway, I took one, and I went to put it in my mouth, and he goes, don't put it in your mouth, just don't chew it, just put it in there and put it on the tongue. So I put it in there. Now, I'd only known him for 5 minutes, right? And I put it in my mouth, and he said to me, now feel the almond in your mouth. Feel the texture of the almond. And while you're concentrating on this is cognitive therapy, Anjii. When you're concentrating on the almond, you're not concentrating on your PTSD. So I said, so cognitive therapy, you mean avoidance therapy? And so I had to go and find a new therapist again. But look, it really didn't work to me. For me, it got me to the point where I was suicidal. The ideology, because your brain's not functioning properly, and I had a child that, desperately needed me, and I wasn't there for him, and I was failing on all areas. And driving the car, your brain would take you almost to that daydream thing of like just driving to the wall. And I came so close one day that I was heading there, and my son's face flashed before my eyes, my little 5 and 6-year-old son, and it snapped me out. And I realized that I have to wake up. I have to wake up from this dream. And so began a journey of self-healing. And so I worked on things, but it wasn't long before I was learning hypnotherapy. So I went and trained as a hypnotherapist, and I found it really incredible. And it was during that time that I wrote myself a session, and then I played it back to myself as the client, and some really incredible things happened, because I got to learn in their system, in the normal system, that didn't work for me either with hypnotherapy. So for example, I was the person for cigarette smoking training, and so she did the training on me to teach others, and she interviewed me and said, so when did you start smoking? Or 14. Okay, and it was that to fit in? Yes. And so she put all of these things down, and then she took me into hypnosis, and then she said, so you started smoking at 14 to try and fit in, and now that is no good, and the smell of smoke is disgusting, and it makes you feel ill, and all these sorts of things. And, you know, within a day, my partner was saying to me, oh my God, will you just go and buy a packet of cigarettes? And I was like, no, 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 I don't want to be that girl. I don't want to be that bad person that fails her. And anyway, I did. So I thought about it, and I did a lot of self-hypnosis, and I thought about it. So I wrote the script, and I got one of the other therapists to come and just watch over, and I took myself down, and I did this thing. And well, with the smoking, I wrote the script and I got her to take me down, and I said, please don't put any other things in it. Just say what I put there. So, you know, I wanted to try and experiment. So she took me down, and so my instruction was to get me to stand in the center of my smoking. Oh, and I seemed to get there, so that was great. And then the instruction was to follow it back to the moment you made the decision to smoke cigarettes. And I went back to being a tiny child in nappies at our family hotel in New Zealand. And they used to have buses that would come in with people, and they would all go and eat in the restaurant. And my father was out in the kitchen, you know, with the bus drivers. And I remember these red kind of vinyl seats, like the old, you know, you got the 2 bench seats and the little table thing. He was out the back with the bus drivers, and he was smoking cigarettes. And I checked with the family afterwards, and I said, did Dad smoke Pall Mall filterless when he was young? And they said, yep, he did. And so he was smoking, and he's talking away to them, and he's got this like cool haircut, and I'm in nappies, and I'm looking up, and Dad's talking away to them, and he's blowing smoke rings for me, and I'm this little kid looking up, fascinated. And then I had a lolly cigarette which had a little pink thing on the end, and Dad bent down with his cigarette lighter and lit the top of my lolly. And that was the moment I wanted to be cool like my dad, which included the smoking. So I was able to work with that and make that change, because I got to the real root of where it was. So that was my first key to, you know, finding this pathway forward. And so then I used this with the PTSD, and I wrote myself a script, and I took myself down, and I went to stand in the center of my PTSD, and I wanted to go to the beginning of these seizures, like, you know, why they happen and when they happen, and there must be some reason, they're not just random. And it showed me clearly, it took me to a point, and it showed me that 15 minutes before an attack, I have a sense of nausea. So then I was able to stop the tape and instruct myself, and I said, well, from this moment on, whenever that trigger happens, you will take 3 deep, relaxing breaths, and you'll excuse yourself and either go and lie down for 20 minutes while your brain resets, or you will sleep for 20 minutes. You'll do whatever's necessary. Because what it was showing me was that the brain is doing these things. It's sending these signals and saying, overload, overload, need to overload, overload, overload. We're shutting you down.
So,
So
Anjii, that means that you did this on your own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sorry. The smoking one I did with, the smoking one I did with someone else, and I got her to supervise, you know, just in case something was wrong, because I was still learning. So I didn't know whether I was messing up. And with the PTSD, I just had to. And so that worked. So I went through all of the triggers, and it took me on that journey through all of my triggers. And I never had another PTSD attack, except for when I had cancer. It was actually my body warning me that something was going on. So my main trigger was peripheral, because I was hit from behind by this guy. And so I started, you know, I'd be driving to, you know, Caulfield Equine Hospital to work, and driving along the freeway, and cars coming past. Suddenly I was in a panic, and so this started happening, and I couldn't work out why. And, you know, I was having lots of issues at the time, sort of health-wise, really weirdly, you know, strange stomach bloating, and all these sorts of things, and very bad migraines. And anyway, I soon found out. I was working on a horse with a vet and an equine dentist in a paddock, and we had it under sedation, and we were pulling a tooth that had gone up into its cheekbone. And so when we finished that, I thought I'd sort of killed a rib, in my chest, and so I went to my osteopath, and she fixed it. And then I was just with my my GP about a month later, and she said, "Is there anything else I can help with?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "Oh, I've got this sore rib. I went to the osteopath about it, but I don't know, it just seems to be not getting better." And she said, "Well, why don't we get an ultrasound on?" And I'm like, anyway, I went and got an ultrasound, and as happens, most people talking to you about their cancer diagnosis, I was getting the ultrasound, and the girl says, "Oh, look, the machine's not working. Something's wrong with the machine. I'm just going to go get a technician. I'll be back in a moment." And so she was gone for a wee while, and then she came back, and the man with her, and I thought, he's not a technician. And he's looking at the thing, and then he stepped back and he said, "Look, you're going to get a call from your doctor tomorrow. You need to go and see them." And I was going, "What is it? What is it?" And he's going, "We can't tell you." Of course they can't. But yes, so they weren't sure if it was stage 3 or stage 4 breast cancer. And they said, even though you're, on the public list, which is a long waiting list, you're actually next cab off the rank. So we're going to operate on you in 2 weeks' time, because we don't know, what stage this is, but it looks pretty bad. So, fortunately it was stage 3, which is wonderful. But that was my body going back into that form of, alerting me that something's wrong, and that was amazing too. So, by working with triggers, you're not actually turning off your survival skills. You're just allowing them to be there for when you need them and when you don't. And so working with that type of therapy, like what it taught me was so incredible. And going through cancer, was an amazing university course in self. And, things that I'd been talking to women about for, 20 years as a therapist, I got to walk my own talk. And it was a really, really incredible journey. And so I developed the work that I did, and I had a lot of dream work. I'm a very spiritual person, sometimes. And I was guided to, take all that I've learned. There's a reason for it. And then I was recalling that I'd had an NDE in 1995 after my attack, when I got to Australia, 95 or 96. Oh, and by the way, guys, I do have chemo brain, so sometimes I get like little bubbles, and I either forget what I'm talking about or I jostle back and forth. So please forgive me. I'm grateful to be alive. So. Sorry, I don't know who's here with me tonight. It's been really weird. I've had curtains jump off the wall, and I don't know if anyone's here for a reason tonight, but there's someone here with us. Oh, where was I? Where was I, Renata?
You were talking about your
NDE,
NDE,
yes.
and when you're going back to New Zealand in 1995.
Oh yes. Yes, no, I'd had a near-death experience, and in that near-death experience, that was when I'd come back to Australia from New Zealand, and I had a near-death experience, and during that experience, I was counseled and guided as to why I'm here, and exactly why I'm to stay here, and that everything that I had experienced in my life was to teach me and prepare me, so that, and this is what they showed me, reaching into the trauma and through the trauma, through the veil, to bring back tools into this existence, which I was here to use to help people and to teach people that healing is so simple. I imagine now that if I just kept on getting, psychology every week, and look, it works for some people amazingly, but just for me in the way that I think it didn't. I don't know where I would have been, and so I spent 20 years working with this now and taking people to that place. So, it's a really amazing tool for people to understand that we can heal ourselves, and we can learn more down there than we would ever learn off somebody telling us, like going to a psychic. So one of the things I say is, why go to a psychic when you can go there yourself? And self-healing is just that. It's a re-empowerment. We're living lives where we have had our power taken from us all our lives. We've been disempowered, and we've our self-worth and things taken away. And so I'm not there to further disempower people. My job is to re-empower people with their own power. So the hypnosis work that I do is I'm actually taking people, and they showed me this in my NDE. They took me down to, I can feel the energy. So they're starting to flow through me now. So in my NDE, they showed me the work that I would be doing, and that I would be taking people to a garden, and everyone has a garden. And I know that a lot of hypnotherapists use this, so I know that someone somewhere has been there. But we all have this garden, and to take people down there and allow them to do their own healing. And so, they taught me that it's holding space and, standing there with people as they work. So, look, is there any questions on that so far? I hope I'm not confusing you all. It's a very energetic night. Sounds like The Shack. Oh, that's a movie.
I think there are no questions so far.
Oh, I just saw someone come up and they said it sounds like The Shack.
Yeah, that was Chilla. Yeah.
All right. Yes, so this is the work that I do with people, and why it's really great tonight is that one of my clients is actually Renate, and we've had some incredible experiences from the first day we met, and I'm sure that some of you would have heard about that in our talks over the last few days. And some of you are in our circle where training everyone to communicate with animals, and training people in the Reiki classes on Reiki. So some of you would have heard about that, but what we haven't spoken about before is our sessions with hypnosis. So Renate has come to me for a couple of sessions, and they were to do with your grandmother, and then the second one with your mother. So what I wanted to do first, Renate, is maybe if you could share the issues that you wanted to work with. So when you came, like with your mother, you said, I want to get closure, and I want to get something off my chest to her, and you were angry, but also what you've done, previously, because how old are you now?
I'm
29, but you've been trying for 29 years to.
I'm 58. And so about almost all my life, I was looking for something. I didn't know what it is, or I couldn't find really a name for it, but I was under the impression that I'm not as the others are, that there is something wrong with me. And I knew it must have to do with my body and with the feeling of my body. and this kept me going all my life. And I saw a lot of therapists and coaches and really tried many things. And then about 4 years ago, when I first met your brother, a big change started, and I had to rewrite my history. Before then I was always talking about having had the most happiest childhood you can imagine, although I didn't remember anything. So I didn't have any memory from my childhood. But yeah, I told everyone everything's fine, and it was perfect. And I kind of, in my mind, I made up like a fairy world. And yeah, and when I first met Greg, I immediately realized that, okay, there's something not as happy as I always supposed it to be. And I found out that I had a very abusive grandmother, and that she really treated me violently, and yeah, tied me to the crib and put fabrics in my mouth so that I couldn't shout. This was really, suddenly I got pictures of in my mind showed up when I was, yeah, a baby. And yeah, so the change started. This was 4 years ago. And then I wanted, and this was working on, and but I really wanted to go into details, and I wanted to know, especially with my grandmother, why did she do that? And I never supposed myself as a victim, because I'm sure that everyone has chosen their life and the life circumstances and their parents and the place and place of birth. So I know I have created this for myself, but still I wanted to know why, and what's my purpose, what's my learning, and what was the reason why my grandmother was acting like this. And this was one of the questions I had when I first came to do a hypno session with Anjii. So yeah, and then she led me really on an amazing journey. As she spoke about the garden I was led to, and then I don't know the real what came first, but what I found out in this session was that I met my grandmother, and she told me that she's totally sorry for what happened, but by that time she couldn't act differently, and that she was in a kind of a mad stage, and that she herself had been, she was an illegal child, and she was always, she was not allowed to be seen and to be heard, and nobody should know about her existence. And especially also no one may smell her, because this is one of the worst things that could happen. So she really tried to keep me very, very clean with a couple of chemicals so that no one can smell that there is a baby. And but she said, so for her, it was not abusing me, but in her mind told her that she is doing that in order to keep me safe. So she made sure that no one can hear me, and no one can smell me, and that I cannot run away, so that I'm not seen. So that was her purpose to, and her intention was to save me. And in this session, she also told me that she would have given her life for me in order to protect me.
That's right. Yeah. And so she talked to you about, she took you through her journey through the war and as
Yeah.
a child, and the fear and the terror and the life critical importance
Yeah.
of being silent and being hidden.
Yes.
And
Yes. Because
and
that's
she
what
was
she always had to be. She was born in 1899, and so she went through 2 world wars, and yeah, it was very often. Yeah, she it was, and I didn't get real details why this was. She was not allowed to be seen, but I think she was hidden.
Oh,
And
yeah, no, you did at the time when you were talking to me, when
yeah.
you were under hypnosis. So the detail, because you were talking me through it, and she was taking you through that they were hiding her to keep her safe because they were hunting for children,
Mhm.
and they would take them away, and that's why she was being hidden to keep her alive. And then when she was older, she had serious PTSD, obviously, all her life, that, you know, in those days was undiagnosed. And her PTSD was so much so, and so many years later, that she's a grandmother under hypnosis, you were crying, and she was saying to you, I'm so sorry, I went a bit mad in my head with the post-traumatic stress, which, you know, we didn't know what it was in those days. It was called Malay or something, or, and she held you like a little baby, and you hugged her, and you made your peace with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a
And
big forgiveness. Yeah.
yeah, and you understood, you know, you
Yeah,
understood
I did.
that she wasn't abusing you, that in her mind that was lost,
Yeah.
she was, you know, keeping you safe, and she loved you more than anything.
Yeah.
So how did that feel when you first came out of it? Because you were angry before that, you know, like,
Yeah,
why was I
I was
abused?
angry. Why the fuck was she doing that? And then I felt this relief, um, for me, but also for her. It was, for me, it felt that she was still captured. She hadn't forgiven herself yet, and
That's
through
right, she was captured, wasn't she?
yeah.
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 And through meeting me and telling me this story, I was also able to release her, and that felt really well. And then there was one incident that was really amazing, because she asked if she can come and visit here on my farm. And she said she always hated animals, because animals, even if they were traumatized, they were still able to receive touch and kindness, but she never could. She always refused that. And now she feels that there is so much she can gain from, and that therefore she asked if she can visit and come and watch my animals, and be on my property. And yeah.
Right. And she mentioned especially your chicken.
Did she?
You have a, yes, yes.
Okay.
She liked your chicken.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got
Cool.
one special chicken that she likes. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So, you know, if you look at just that session for a start, so, you know, you find out in life as an adult that you were abused as a child. First of all, you think, am I crazy? Am I making that up? Is that, have I watched too many movies? And all of these emotions go through your head, and then you start recalling little things, and then you think, you know what, I was, and you remember that you were.
Yeah.
And so what you learned by going down into yourself and stepping across the veil and meeting with your grandmother and having that conversation personally, no therapy in my mind could ever have given you the knowledge that she gave you. you know, taking you on, you went on a journey through her life. Like it was like a fly through of her life.
Yeah.
And it was truly incredible. And, you know, a psychic or a medium, you know, they could tell you these things, but it is never going to have that space in your heart that doing that journey personally yourself is going to do. And that's what this work does.
And in this session, I didn't only meet my grandmother, but I also met my spiritual guides. I don't know if you remember, because when
I could remember which session it was. Yeah.
So when I was down there, I felt a big intensity behind my left side.
Yes. You said to me, there's a lot of people here.
Yeah, and I said, well, there are a lot of, I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of energy or entities or people behind me. And then Anjii said, well, so ask them to step forward one after the other. And so there it was really amazing, because first who came was Samson. So, you know, Samson from the Bible. So this huge, nice, strong, invincible man. And he said, I'm here to protect you. And then he went on, and the next one who came was a turtle. And she was crawling in front of me and telling me, okay, so my name is Momo, and I'm here to support you with patience. And she also said, look at what you have changed already, and appreciate that, and just go on with patience. And the next one who showed up, this was a huge spider, a spider with very long legs. And her name was Regula. And she said, I am your creativity. I support you with creativity, because I can go places with my long legs where no one else can go. And I help you to get out of your comfort zone. And so whenever you need creativity, just think about me and I will support you. And then there was a huge snake. And this snake was not a poisonous one, but it was like a boa. And she was winding around my body, and then put her head on my right shoulder. And she said, I am here to protect you. I'm not protecting you physically, but I protect you against hostility and slandering and defamation. And yeah, and then she went down again and went away. And then the last animal I could remember was a tiny little mouse. He was a baby mouse, and she didn't have a name. And she said, I support you to show yourself vulnerable and to lower your barriers, because when you're in that state, you're able to receive. Then you're able to receive all the energy, all the energies which are here to support you. But if you have your barriers up, you can't receive anything. And this was really oh yeah, there are even more. So this was the little mouse. Then there was a huge dragon, a fire spitting dragon with I think there were 3 heads. And he was always, he said, I make your way free. I open up your way. I take away the obstacles in your way. I clear your space. And the last one who showed up, of course, was my horse Tessa. And she is a nice black horse. And she was wearing a red tartan. and she was just sending me love and said, I'm always there if you need me. And all this happened within this first session we had. So
Yes,
I got
absolutely.
so many presents and so many, yeah, I was overwhelmed by what I was able to receive.
I remember you coming back to me at one point, and one of them was saying to you that you'd had an incident, and they said, do you remember that incident stopped and the person suddenly ran away? And
No.
and you were saying to me, saying this thing happened to me, and this person suddenly, and I've always wondered why. This one that was here just told me it was me that sent them away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also an interesting thing. After the session, I wrote everything down in order not to forget it. And when we were talking about the talk we're doing today, I said, I have no idea what we did. I have to look it up again, because I think I have solved these issues and then I don't need it anymore. So it's forgotten. And when I need an animal to support me, I will remember, but I do not have to remember the whole story.
That's right. That's right. And in your second session, so you came, your mother had passed away a while before,
Yeah.
and you contacted me and you said, I have to get something out from inside me. I have some things I need to say to my mother to get off my chest about my childhood. My mother was very cold and I need to do this. And so I need to do a session with you. So it's like, okay. And so we did a hypnosis via Zoom, and I just gently took you down to your garden. We greeted your garden again, and we went down and sat by the water. And then you called your mother forward and wanted to say some things to you, but she was already there waiting for you, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. And and she was, I read it in the morning, because this was, as soon as I was in this state, I saw her, and she was surrounded by blue, and she was kind of flying, um, and there was this huge area around her, so that there was nothing, there was no ground, and she was just like flying. And then I had the impression, okay, this must be like the atmosphere, or the orbit where she's still circling around. And yeah, and she was very pleased to see me. And I started to ask her what I wanted to know, because so I talked about my grandmother, and that how she treated me. And when I was little, we lived in an apartment, and this was my grandmother, my father, my mother, and me. And my mother left me with my grandmother when I was about 6 months old, and went to work again. So I was stuck with my grandmother the whole day till she got back, and my father till they both got back from work in the evening. And what I always wanted to know from her was, why did you do that? Why did you leave me with your grandmother, with your mother, alone, and went to work again? It was kind of, yeah, letting me alone and knowing what will happen. And this was why I was upset with her, and that's what I wanted to let go of, and wanted to know.
Get out of inside you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that my mother herself, by that time, was not aware of having done anything wrong, because my mother, she was completely dissociated probably all her life. There is a as I give an example. For instance, when I was born, so I was born in hospital, uh, and and my mother was there, and in this room were many women who all were giving birth. So this was in 1963, and my mother always told me this story, that she wondered why all these other women were crying and shouting and making such a fuss out of giving birth. Because when you give birth to a child, you don't feel it. There is nothing. The child is just here. And that's how I got birth. My mother was not aware of it, because when the doctor then came to her bed, he said, "Oh, wow, the baby is here already. Haven't you realized?" And no, she hasn't. So she was so dissociated from her body that she didn't even realize when she gave birth. And she always told me this story, and made fun of other women who said how painful birth is, because she always said, well, that doesn't hurt at all, it's nonsense. And only now this makes sense to me, why she said that and why it really was like that for her, because she was not in her body. She didn't feel her body. And she that's also why she couldn't give hugs or being close with someone and receive kind and nourishing touch, because she was dissociated. And that's also why
she was a second generation of that, and then you were the third.
Yeah, right.
That trauma.
And so this, when I met her in this session, I could completely forgive her, because it made so much sense to me that by then she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't mean wrong. She didn't want to hurt me. It was, she wanted to do the best for me. And then there was
from my memory,
Yeah.
from my memory of when you were down there, she apologized to you, and
Yeah.
she said that she had known that she was cold to you, and she took you through a journey of her life as well, and you went through her life with her all of the way through. And she showed you that she had that dissociation, and it wasn't until a certain time, but then you're sort of down there and you're saying to me, oh, she was like reading how to be a mother books and everything, trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Because she suddenly went out into the world and realized that what was happening behind their closed doors was not normal.
Yeah.
And so suddenly she had this drive to try and become a mother and become a person with social skills. And she also spoke to you about how she wanted to talk to you about it all of your life, when you were older, and she obviously was completely aware that it was not normal, and she wanted to talk to you about it. She was afraid of having an argument, so she never did. And it was one of the regrets that she has on the other side, is that one of the regrets she has is that this was still there, and she said it was dragging her backwards, because she can't forgive herself for that. Yes. And you guys had a discussion, and at one point you said, oh my God, I was jealous of my own children for getting cuddles from my mother. Yeah,
because I have 3 children, and with my children, she was the warmest and the nicest grandmother you can imagine. And when you talk to my children, they wouldn't, they give a completely different picture of her than I would have given of her. So they really appreciated being with her, and she baked with them and played with them, and really was a warm and nice grandmother. So she kind of wanted to make up with my children what she wasn't able to do with me.
Yeah. And so she took you on journeys. You then went and did some past lives with her, and
Yeah,
you got shown
but
different past
first,
lives that you'd had together.
But before we did that, there was a really amazing situation coming up. I don't know if you remember, but you probably do, that I received, so she was standing there or flying in this orbit, and suddenly there was like a cathedral, and then the cathedral doors opened, and extreme pure white light was coming out of the door towards me. And this lasted for a couple of minutes. And I had the impression that I'm completely, I get filled up with this light. And
Was it like love?
yeah, it was unconditional love, or this, yeah, this bright light you receive, the spiritual light you receive from cosmical light. And
I was actually tonight just listening back to an interview I did with David Ditchfield, and he was describing that same light. So you, yeah, but his was in a near-death experience, and yours was under your own journey across it. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I felt how I was filled up with this light. And then I had the impression, okay, I'm full now, and suddenly this door closed, and it was over. And yeah, and this was a feeling, incredible feeling of being filled up with this love energy, or whatever it was. And then, yeah, then there were these two past lives. I was shown with her, and the first one was that I got a picture of two children, about 10 and 12-year-old, two girls. And there was, we were dressed up with thick coats, and it was cold, and it was snowing, and it was winter. And there was a huge crowd of people going one direction. And we were there together, but there were no parents, but many other people. And the only thing was we had each other. And I had the impression that it must have been somewhere in Russia. And after the session, I looked it up, and I looked up if I could find something similar to this picture I had in my head. And I found it in the war. There was the Napoleon War in Russia in 1812, when Napoleon conquered Russia and then got stuck in the wintertime. But people from villages had to leave and were going through the fields to a safe space. And I found a picture, so that's about similar to the picture I got. And we were somewhere in this crowd, moving from our village to another one to get safe. And I also get another scene that we are in a small shelter, and that there is a fire, and there's soup cooking, and there are other people. And the message I got, or what this lifetime was for, that I am not alone. And
actually one really, sorry, can I interrupt? Just one really important thing that stuck out to me when you were away there, and then you're sort of describing, oh, we're in the snow, we're walking, I'm 3, she's like 6, and you're describing your clothing and things, and you described being so happy.
Yeah.
Walking through the snow. I'm saying, do you have food? You go, no, we don't have anything.
Yeah.
But
because
I'm so
we have
happy.
each other.
My big sister, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that was the
So that was the healing thing in that life. That's what you were shown by your
Yeah.
mother in that life to show you that we've done these hard journeys before.
Yeah. And then there was another lifetime we had. Actually, this was before the other, because it must have been about 1700. In this lifetime, we were man and wife, and I was the husband, and she was my wife, and we were about in our young 20s. And we left, we immigrated from Europe to New York. So must have been like either Ireland or England. And we were on one of these big boats, which was going from Europe to America. And I got this impression of this ship and being on this ship for a couple of weeks, which was absolutely terrible. We were only allowed to be on the deck, and so there were no toilets, and people were throwing up, and it was.
I remember you describing the stench.
Yeah, really. This was really terrible, but again we had each other in this situation. And then we got to New York, and of course situation was much different than we expected it to be, and we had spent all our money on the journey, so there was nothing left. And it was difficult, it was hard. And the second scene I got, that we had again a tiny, it was not really an apartment, but it was just one room with a bed and with an oven. And it was again that we are lucky to have each other.
And you were happy.
Yeah, and we were happy. And I, as the man, I found work, and I was bringing coals to other people's places. And but we enjoyed the time we had, but it was not long, because my wife, she only, I think, a couple of years, not long, she died from typhus. And so it was only a short time we had together. And then again, I looked it up in Wikipedia, and it was that in I think it was 1705 or something like that, there was the biggest typhus epidemic, and so many people died from it. So it's really fascinating what pictures I got. So, and the message from this lifetime was to really appreciate the common life you have, and the trust there is with one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And the outcome with so you came to that session wanting to give your mother a mouthful, and get some things off your chest and send her on her way.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the outcome for you?
Yeah, for me, it's solved. I appreciate what she did for me, and that there is no anger left, or there is just appreciation.
Absolutely. And she also wanted to come to your farm, and you invited her there.
Right.
And suddenly I saw a vision of a woman standing there in like in a suit like Jackie Onassis with little square shoes, and I could see this, and you described it. That's how your mother dresses. So.
Yeah, that was funny, because you described her, seeing her in that way, and that's my mother always liked to dress up nicely. So, and always in a costume with a jacket and a skirt,
handbag.
And handbag, yeah.
So out of those two sessions, you came in with one drive, and you left having had no counseling from me,
Yeah.
you left with your life changed. Yeah.
So it's really this, you offer this space, and what's important, I think, is that I always felt safe. Of course, there were some moments which were not so nice to experience, but
Like what?
yeah, to be shown again the scenes when I was abused as a child. So
But you weren't in those scenes. You were watching them over there. So you
yeah,
weren't crying or anything here. You were.
that's what I wanted to say. It was kind of like behind a curtain, or behind. I still felt safe. It was not that I would panic or
You were
something.
observing from another space.
Yeah, yeah, right. And yeah, and it's
So what we can take from this, guys, is that we can, because we're up to the top of the hour now. What we can take from this, guys, is that when you have trauma, there's so much behind it. And you know what I learned is that I can get told by other people so much. And I've had psychologists say to me, and so tell me about that situation, that little bit there and that little bit there, and what could you have done better? And I'm like, well, I was the victim, so it's 3 years old. What do you think I could have done better? And then you have in the back of your head, so I could have had some fault in that, and so all of these things go to make it up. When I had my near-death experience, and basically in my near-death experience, they showed me pretty much the same way that they were going to get me to take people on journeys too. So I was very, very angry at my father. I hated him. And, I was interviewed by Interpol about my childhood. And in my NDE, I was taken to this space, and it was a big room with a big oval table, with all these beings there. And, I was there planning this life, and all these people are saying, no, you can't go down and do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And I'm going, but I have to. I need to walk my own talk. I've got to get onto this early, and I need to get up and cracking. And people didn't want to help me. They thought it was too hard. And then one that stood up, that loved me more than any other, that has had many lifetimes with me, stood up and said, Anjii, I believe in you. I know you can do this. But I think if someone has to do it to you, I'd rather it be me than someone that doesn't love you. So I will offer this lifetime to teach you what you ask. And that person was my father. Blew my mind. So, 6 months later, staying in the garden, I've just gone, oh. And then 6 months later, I'm staying in the garden, I'm like, suddenly, even if it's not true, it actually helps me make sense of all the trauma in my childhood, right? It helps me make sense of a lot of things. But if it is true, then I suddenly realize that I have no right to send that energy of hatred to that man, to, drag him to wherever I want him to be. And I had to then go, well, so if I wanted to set these things out to learn from, what did I learn from them? Let's have a look. So then I had to do the journey of going down and looking at them. And this is what I do with people, like Renate coming up, do a mother, or go down and have a look at it, reach into it. What did you learn from it? What did you gain from it? Where did you go with it? And your view that you've come in with, you walk back out that door of self with a whole different view. I walk back out of that NDE going, wow, I have, a whole different world. My self-worth has changed. It took a long time to sort of really get there, but this is what happens in these sessions, and this is what I'm guided to do, is to take people on this journey that I've been able to do myself. And I always find it very interesting that in order for me to learn how to work with hypnosis as an incredible tool to help people with post-traumatic stress, people that are suicidal, to go down and make their own change, and to go in and change their triggers, and to heal these things. In order to do that, I didn't find a therapist that could do it for me, because there wasn't one. I actually had to have it come through, put it on paper, record it, and play it back. That to me is really incredible, because it's something I'd never sort of done before, experienced before. But I just, I look at the way that our lives are orchestrated and how they do work. And as if I did set these out, this is everything that I've learned, this is what I put, and then, throw in an NDE, a bit more instruction that I can sort of remember half of when I come back, and put it all together. And, actually out there being able to teach people that healing yourself is just that, but it's when you're ready to do it. So I had a woman that came to me wanting to know why, she spent her whole life wanting to know why she was raped when she was young, in her 20s, and 21, I think. And she wanted to know why she was raped. And I said, okay, so, go down and ask. And so we went down, and I held space for her down there by the lake, by the fire, and she lit the fire. And I said, call out your first question across the lake. And she called out and she said, why was I raped? And the answer came back to her, and she's down there going, no, right. And I said, what's happening? And she said, well, they told me that I asked for it. And I said, okay, all right, well, just ask them the next question. And, what would that be? And it's like, the next question is, when did I ask for it? So she said, oh, so she called out, when did I ask for it? And she came back and she said, oh, apparently before this life. I said, okay, so ask them why you asked for it. And she went and had this great discussion, and she came back and she said, so I asked it because I wanted to study how that trauma sits in the cells of the body and affects the body so completely in relationships and health and personality wise going forward in their life, and how to heal it, which is exactly why I'm in this room right now, and to be able to go forward and help other people with that same journey and healing and coming back from that. So that was really cool. So we were able to work on a bit of that, and let's take what you've learned, right? Let's put it in, and let's retain that, and let's thank him, and he can F off and never steal one single piece of your life force again. And then she had one more question. I said, do you remember that other question she asked? And she said, no. And I said, you wanted to know why you never felt any, you cannot remember anything from the first moment that man touched you. And she said, oh yeah. So she called that out. And then she's having a discussion down there. She said, oh, no. And she comes out, she goes, oh, so they've just told me that you didn't go down there to study that. You just wanted to know the effects in your body. So you didn't need to retain that stuff. But if you really want, we can show it to you. And she's like, oh, no, it's all good. So I don't know what else could have helped her find those answers except within herself. I had a woman that came for weight loss, and she's a hairdresser, and I use this system with everyone. As well, stand in the middle of your weight loss. Has anything changed? Like, have you changed your diet? Have you changed? No, nothing's changed in the last 2 years. So just the same. But I'm like, okay, is it hormonal? No, doctor says everything's fine. I said, well, why don't we go down and stand in the middle of it, and you can sort of go back to where it came from. So she went down, she stood in the middle of it, and she went back to her ex who had suicided in her house. And so while she was there, she had a conversation with him, and he came forward and they had the conversation, and he said to her, I am so sorry. I don't even know why I did it there. I'm so sorry. I just never fitted into that body in that life. Like I never fitted in. It was only a matter of time. And actually the reason I was there for even longer was because of you. You know, you're what kept me there. But please don't, blame yourself. And I'm sorry I wrecked, the house and blah blah blah. And they had an incredible conversation, and he talked to her about where he was. He was in like a hospital type thing up there, and he was getting healed, spiritually, and he was preparing to go again in a better form where he would fit. So, something I sort of picked up from that was like, oh, maybe sometimes we don't fit into these bodies. Some people say, I just don't fit my body. And, they've got doctors that then put them on medications and things. And, perhaps sometimes they don't fit. And so that was really incredible for her. Right. And so I said, so how does this relate to your weight gain? And boom, she went straight to the answer. She said, because I never wanted to be hurt like that again. And in order to not be hurt like that again, I will put on weight and I will carry that weight and I will be unattractive. Now that is at the base of a lot of women's weight, right? I've had so many women. I had, a woman come, and she was a hairdresser too. She'd been at a function in Sydney and got drugged and raped, and she'd put on weight, and hers came to the same thing. I did not want to put myself out there and be a victim anymore, and so my brain took that and created a form that would not be, in my mind, attractive to rapists. I mean, the reality is rapists wouldn't care if you were, it's not about that. It's about, disempowering. But this is where these women's heads go. So we're able to work with that. I just find it the most incredible tool that, you have your own answers. And it's so simple to go down there. And what we think out here is the right answer. The right answer for me is that stuff happens and I've just got to move on, and it's maybe tough, and the reality is like, no, I requested these so that I could reach into them and do exactly what I did: reach in, work out what I learned, put it down, work out how that works, and then create it as something that can actually save other lives. So that's what I do. It's amazing how many women with breast cancer go into it and they go back to mother issues or mothering issues. My own breast cancer, I did a thing on myself and I went back to 3 mother issues. 1 mothering issue, because we all feel like a failure. I couldn't give my son the wonderful life that, lots of other rich people had. And, I'd always felt like a failure because in my family's eyes, I, hadn't given my son a father. And they all sat inside me and created cancer. And when they actually took the cancer out in the operation, I got them to photograph it for me, and it had 3 prongs. So I had 3 mothering issues, and I had 3 prongs. I find with a lot of illnesses, they're really relevant. When people go to that place to emotional issues, and it reminds me of the old Louise Hay books. Did anybody read them when they were younger? In the 70s? Yeah, I love her, and I've completely gone back to it, and it's like, wow, she's so way ahead of her time. And it's incredible how doing this work with people healing themselves, that she is spot on. Sometimes people will say something, they'll come for back issues, and they'll go to that place and they'll go there, and I'll go and look up the Louise Hay and sort of go, boop, there it was. It was their financial issues and stuff like that. So so that's what it is. So look, this is what I do and how it works, and it's great to have someone that can actually share with you her own experiences with me as a therapist. But I'd love to get some questions from you all about my work and what I do, and anything you'd like to know.
Well, I think it's also important to know that you work online, as we all did our sessions, of course, online. And via Zoom as well. And Anjii needs to see your face and how you breathe. and your arm, so that she can tell if you're still how you're doing, and can help if necessary.
Well, as a hypnotherapist, there's certain things you look at. It's the atavistic. You need to be able to see the nails and, you know, clearly the eyes and the breathing. So, yeah. But yeah, no, it works.
So, do you have questions? Chilla, I think she wants to ask something.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, Anjii. It's nice to be here personally. I loved your last talks as well, just to give a feedback. It was amazing. And I'm sorry I couldn't be present. And just as well now, I'm just looking like, wow, wow, wow. It's so deep and it's so nice how you can present it. And I'm very grateful for both of you to be so honest and vulnerable, you know, just to put out what you've gone through and all your traumas. And I could really feel the connection and how it resonates with me, especially that I've been touched just last week by something that like it hit something out under me, you know, like I was standing stable and the past came back somehow through some events that came one after the other, and the last thing was like that, and I was a whoosh. And since then, I feel that I have to work with it. There is something still in the background, not just me, but my parents and even probably their parents. So I feel like there is a big mess behind me. And therefore, I started to read just recently a book by a Hungarian psychologist. And her book is called The Inherited Fate. You know, that you get a lot of stuff from your past, your parents, and it so much affects you that you just can't work out what's going on, why I can't go on with my own life. And so I'm really interested in what you are doing. However, I was always like, no, that's not my stuff. I can't imagine things. You know, I can't visualize. No. And it's a big trust also to tell this. And trust is my main issue. So, you know, it's like, how to work on trust if I don't trust. So it's really interesting. And yeah, one more thing that occurred to me, that I happened to read a book called Courageous Souls. I don't know if you have that, if you heard. No. When you said what happened to your father, I mean, how you discovered in your ND, this book tells a lot of stories like that, like how it makes sense that you do a pact with souls before you're born, and then you get alcoholic, you have cancer, you have AIDS, you have all sorts of disasters in your lives, and then certain people can help you, like mediums, to take you back, and your soul explains to you that, sorry, that was your wish, that was your desire to live through in this lifetime. And then it like, what you went through is like 180 degrees turn, and so it was like really hitting the center. And you said that's so, but you have to understand, otherwise it's just pointless, and it's just feelings and emotions and anger and all this struggle that you don't understand. And that's why we don't like the whale, really, because we feel like we are blind. And I feel it's unfair. I want to understand why I'm here and why I go through all this mess. So I will gather the courage and probably set up a time with you, especially that there is this great example by Renate that she went through, and it's amazing.
I'm sure you will massively, extremely benefit from it. I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm just really, really happy, grateful for both of you. And I
Thank you for
let
joining.
the others talk. Thank you, Anjii and Renate.
Thank you. Thank you. One thing I was going to say, you mentioned something before. No, it'll come back to me, Tila. And if not, I'll play it back tonight and then I'll send you an answer. But there was something there that was going to be helpful. So yes.
Well, I think that's what really amazing is that that you once decided to have special experiences for a lifetime, and that's what's so amazing, because that's also so empowering. Then, because when you know this, you can never be a victim, because you have created by yourself, and you always have the chance, the possibility to choose different now. So that's, for me, this finding out about this was so empowering.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what the amazing thing is, and I just remembered, Chiller, about that, is that you were saying how it's hard to make the courage to say all of your stuff to someone, to talk about private things. So what is an advantage of me, I guess, is that I have this take. I could never understand why all these therapists need to know the ins and outs of every, little rape and attack and a thing that I did. It made no sense to me, and it used to make me angry, because I almost felt like I was being abused again. And the reality is, I've written a little book, and it's called The Pond of Poo. And I give this to a lot of my clients to read when I can see that they are hugging their change. So humans hug their trauma, because it's we know this world. We don't know the brave world where we actually have to go out and be successful. So we hide behind our trauma. And so I'll give this book to people, and it's better than saying that. When someone sort of says to you, well, you're not really trying hard enough, and really, you've been talking to me about this for 6 months and you haven't taken any advice, so please just don't talk to me about it anymore. You can't say that to friends, right? With clients. So I give them this book, and it's about a healer, and the healer is there's a healer walking through the fields, and as she's walking through the fields, she hears off to the side this voice calling out, help, 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 I'm stuck in the pond, please come and help me. And she goes over there and she looks, and she sees there's a person in the pond and they're drowning. And she goes, quick, quick, swim over to the side, reach out, take my hand and I'll pull you out and you'll be safe. And the person's going, no, you have to come in here and help me. And the healer's going, no, I'm not hopping in there, just come to the side, reach out, take my arm, and just like that I'll pull you out. And the person in the pond is going, no, you don't understand, my crown is actually in here, and I need it, and I can't leave here until I get it. And the healer's standing on the side going, well, it's gone. Like there's a town over the hill, they've got jewels, we can make you a new crown. Just swim over to the side and I'll pull you out. And the person's going, well, what sort of healer are you that you won't climb in here with me? And the healer says, well, no, I'm not climbing in there with you, but I'm here on the side. And when you're ready to leave the pond, which, by the way, you're swimming in a pond of poo, when you're ready to climb out, just swim over to the side, take my hand and I'll pull you out. And you can sit by the fire that I'm making here, and all the poo will dry off and fall away, and then we can walk together at the dawn and go and make you a new crown in the new town. And the person's going, well, what sort of healer are you? I've had so many healers here and they weren't like you. You're terrible. And the healer says, oh, and where are those healers now? And the person in the pond of poo says, well, some of them drowned because I had to stand on them to keep my nose above the poo. And then others, they just sort of got lost and overtaken by the fumes. and the healer says, well, that's nice. but you know, it's getting dark now. It's going to get very cold tonight. You may well freeze to death in your pond of poo. And the person's going, come on, please come in, help me find my crown. And the killer's going, no, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll light a fire here. But, you know, by dawn, I do need to get going. So, you know, you just go and do what you do. And when you're ready, swim over to the side. And just like that, I'll pull you out and you can be out and dry off and we can go to the new town. So through the night, the fire's crackling and the healer's sitting by the fire and the person's in the pond going, look, 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 I can do backstroke in my poo. How cool is that? And look, 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 I made a crown. It's my crown. And the healer's going, yes, it is a crown, but, you know, it's a crown of poo. You know, swim over to the side, take my hand, just like that. We'll pull you out. And the person cried and wailed all night and abused the therapist and the healer. And then just before the dawn, because it's always coldest just before the dawn, the person said, oh, I'm going to die in here and drown. If it fine, I'll swim over the side and I'll climb out. And so the healer got up, and just as the sun was cracking over the horizon and the person swam to the side, and the healer reached out the hand, and just like that, the person left the pond of poo. And they sat together by a warm fire, and the fire warmed the skin, and the person felt much better, and all the poo started just falling away, didn't matter anymore. And as the sun rose up over the hill, they walked together towards the next village and the next adventure. And just like that, the person saw a glimmer in the grass and said, oh my goodness, there's my crown. It wasn't in there after all. It was always out here. And the healer goes, yes. Yeah. And so that's my story of the pond of poo. And what that means is that I don't have to swim in there with you. I don't have to be a voyeur into your life. I don't have to, you know, with a policeman that's had years and years of trauma and, you know, it's like when you're ready to get rid of it, we can just get rid of it. You know, if you want to talk about something, you know, I don't mind talking about things broadly a couple of times. It's good to get that out. But, you know, most people that come to me have been going to psychologists for years and years, or different therapies or rebirthing and all of these different things. So they've learned to talk about it, right? So the human brain doesn't differentiate between reality and non-reality. And what that means is that when we play a PlayStation game on TV, playing soccer, and in the soccer fields around the person is the little Nike sign going up the side, they pay millions of dollars with that. Why? Because it works, right? So when we go to the shop, even though we hate, you know, that Nike has slave labor or whatever the thing is, we still want to buy the Nike, because up comes the great feeling we have when we're winning the soccer game, along with the Nike tick we can see in the store. So it's the same thing with this. When we are reliving our trauma week after week, and this is what I realized and what made me suicidal, was that each week they would take a minute moment of it and they would pull it out and they would, you know, dissect it, and I would have to go back in and relive the trauma, and they'd be like, well, thank you, Anjii, your hour's up, I'll see you next week. And I was walking out reliving that trauma week after week after week after week, to the point where my brain was no longer functioning. So I don't believe that I have to be a voyeur into life. All I need to know is that you want to be rid of it. You know, it's like with Renate. I didn't need to know what she wanted to say to her mother. I didn't need to know what her history was with her mother. I was like, well, go down and have your conversation. You go down and heal this. Because I know the pathway down. You do your work. I'm not a voyeur into it. Do you know what I mean? You can. So some people, when they're under hypnosis, will be talking to me as they go. So I have some clients that like to do that, and then I have other clients that like to go off and do it and then report back in, you know, every now and then as they're doing it. And so that's how it works. You know, you don't have to beat on my table. You can just say, you know, I have a lifetime of trauma with me and my family, and I want to go down and find myself and resolve these issues. And we'll just go down there and I'll say, you know what, write down a little list of questions that I can remind you of that you're down there. And you know, it's like Renate, right? The list of questions we had, not one was said. Didn't even have to ask any of them, because she just got down there and it It just flowed. Her mum was there waiting for her with open arms, and they healed their journey together. And so this is what generally happens. 90% of the questions that people write down for me do not need to be asked. Their journey just begins, because they're going down inside. They're going beyond the veil and doing the work they need to do. They're going inside their body and doing the work with the cancer that they need to do. I have terminal clients. They go down and they make peace with their lives, and they go down there and pretty much they clean up their backyard. They go down there and they're preparing themselves, and they're met by people that are saying, hey, we're looking forward to you getting here. And they have like all sorts of experiences down there. They have old dogs that come and see them. They get reminded that they need to go and sort with Auntie Johnny, Uncle Johnny, about the fight they've been having 20 years. You need to resolve that, because that'll stop you from coming freely. But just go and fix it, and so they go and they see it's almost like a pre-life review, right? That they sort of go and see what they need to sort out, and they come back and they do that, and they've made their peace with their journey. And I find it just one of my most incredible blessings to witness these journeys of terminal people to that place. And it's taking them across the veil and back. And I just find it, it's amazing to be alive. It's amazing to be doing this, and it's amazing to share out with people. And I know that my mission is, I'm not the only one that does this. I'm sure there are other people that do this, and however you get to that place to do it. I know that hypnosis takes you well beyond, where meditations have ever taken me. But go and do it. Scoop it up. Swim over to the side. Pull yourself out. You can do it. And I'm just there to hold space and guide you. You've got the car. I've got the keys. I know the way down. I take you down. I hold space, and I assist you when you need it. Like there is a lot of famous therapists that take people back and reading their books and things, and these people always been thrown back into the death of that life, and I'm like, oh my God, that's just phrasing. That they do not have to throw them into a death scene, or people don't need to feel that. The tears that people cry when they're down with me are often tears of love and pure emotion, like I got before. I don't know who's here for a reason today, but someone's here. I've had this afternoon several things happen. A big curtain. The tracks are still there, but the curtain rail shot out and off the wall, like it's hanging in the lounge there, and that was really strange. And then through the afternoon, someone's been unhooking the things off it. So I just come out and there's another one taken off and another two taken off. And so it's only hanging by two things now, but they have to go up to come out. And,
trying to get your attention, huh?
Sorry?
Someone is trying to get your attention.
Absolutely. And then as soon as we started this evening, just someone walked straight through me. It was, I don't know, it was someone beautiful, but yeah, that was that emotion that sort of came across. So I do apologize for that. But these are all journeys that each of you can take. Healing is very, very simple. It doesn't take 10 years of things. Do a session with someone like me. Ernst is an incredible healer. He's also a clinical hypnotherapist. And do those journeys and then stand amongst the herd. Go and do a healing with the horses. Once you do that and you clean that out, then you've opened your vehicle to all of the beautiful love to come back in, right? And just how Renate was showing those doors opening and that pure love come out and fill every cell of her body, and what it's doing is it's filling the sense of worthlessness, of lack of self-worth that is just built up in that body, all of that life, right? And they are just healing all of those cells. and they heal it with love. So love is the key to everything, right? And that's what I find really incredible. And David Ditchfield, famous in England, he went under a train, and I interviewed him on one of my podcasts. And I was just listening to that tonight, and he was saying about the three lights, the same, came and filled every cell of his body, and filled him with love that he had never given himself. And he knew that it was not God or anything, but like there's whatever view we give it, there's a sense that it's yourself, but a bigger self of you. And it's eye-opening, it's exciting, and it's simple. And yeah, that's what it's about. Look, I need some questions, because I don't know if I'm answering the sort of questions you want. Like there's 4 keys to go into hypnosis. One is you need to trust the person that's doing it with you. If you don't trust that person, then don't do hypnotherapy with them. Just say, look, I'm feeling uncomfortable, so maybe it's not the right place for me, and don't pay them. If the second one is that you need to want to be where you're going to be more than you want to be where you are now. So, a smoker will come because they want another reason to say, oh, I've tried everything, including hypnosis, nothing works for me, and they're giving themselves permission to continue on the behavior. Some people, will fight very hard not to go into hypnosis, but that's an easy fix. It's the ones that really don't want to be there. The third thing is you need to know what you're going to be doing down there, and I always explain this of actually what's happening in the journey, and I'll get Renate to just touch on that in a few moments. And so you understand what you're doing down there. I have our list of questions. I know the ballpark of where we're going, and then we just organically go from there and allow you to, do your own journey. And the fourth thing is, if you've ticked off the 3, do you trust me? Do you want to be where you're going more than you want to be where you are now? Do you know what we're going to do down there? We're just going to take you down. We're going to take 3 deep breaths, and we're going to go down and count ourselves down. And we just go down there, right? Eyes closed. We go down, and we go down to the garden, and we go down through the garden, and we go down to the beach. And it's just the most beautiful journey down there. It's not hard and tricky, and it's not like a magic trick. It's just a beautiful working journey. And so, do you trust me? Do you want to be where you want to go more than you want to be here? Do you know what you're going to do down there? Then the fourth and last thing is, then if you yes to all of that, then all you have to do is listen to the sound of this voice as I talk you down into deep hypnosis. And you will go into deep hypnosis and do the work that you want to do. And that's how it works. Yes, a garden's amazing. They showed me my garden in my near-death experience. They took me to mine, and it just had these most amazing birds with these wings and big wings, and I always remember it was red wings and blue wings, and it was really, really interesting. And I had a really interesting experience. I worked on a film called The Real Macaw, and I was just working for the film photographer there, but they found that every time I came to set, that the macaws would go off, and it got to the point where the director would say, "Is Anjii here?" And someone would say, "Yep, she's just arrived." And these birds would know that I was coming from like a kilometer away, arrive, and they would just go crazy, like they're so loud. And so I would have to go into the tent with the macaws, and these macaws just loved me. And these I'm like, oh my God, you're like the birds in my NDE. It's really amazing. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience. When the film finished, the wrangler gave little Jamie Croft, who was the child in the movie, and myself some feathers, and I was very upset about that. But the birds, you have amazing plants down there, you have libraries down there, and you have shelves filled with all of your trauma and all of your dramas and all the little things that have been said to you and all of the sadnesses and all the little things that have made you feel, like I was called carry stumps when I was a kid. Well, I had the skinniest legs ever, like it was a tongue-in-cheek joke, but I thought I was fat. All these silly little things in the shelf, we just go and we cleaned all out. We throw them all out. We burn them in the fire. And, you know, big ones, just throw them out there. You know, let's just scoop up all of the angry things that you said that you feel guilty about. Just put them all in a box. You know, don't have to go. So tell me about the 5,274 mean things that you've said to your sister that you feel guilty about.
But
You know?
what if, Anjii, someone is saying, well, this might work for others, but I can't go under hypnosis. This won't work for me.
I have had that said, and I was actually at a party. I was having a glass of wine. I was having margaritas, and a young guy came up to me. He would have been in his 20s, and he said, "Oh, hypnosis, what a load of rubbish." And I'm like, "Okay." And he comes past. He goes, "Yeah, my auntie's like one of the most famous hypnotists in the world, and she can't hypnotize me. I can't be hypnotized." And I said, "Oh, rightio." And he came. He was being so smart, and I said to him, "Why couldn't you be hypnotized?" He said, "Because some people can and I can't." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, you know," I said, "Well, there's 4 things to go into hypnosis." I said, "Do you like your auntie?" He said, "Oh no, she's a bitch." And I said, "Well, there you go." And he was like, "What do you mean?" I told him the 4 things, and he went away and he just kept coming back all day. Like this had been, you know, as much as he was arrogant about it, he was actually broken about it. He was like, "Oh my God, I need to find out. I need to find out. I've just always, you know, oh, please, can I?" So I finally took him down and, you know, he just sat in a chair and I said, "Do you trust me?" And he said, "Yeah, you know what to do." And I said, "Do you want to, you know, do you want to be there more than here?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." And I told him what we're going to do down there. And I said, "Follow the sound of this voice." And we just went down and I just took him down into a beautiful pond with a waterfall. And he went for a dive and a swim. And he stood under the waterfall and felt it tumble on his body. And then he came back. I had a room full of people. And he came back and he just said that was the most amazing thing that's ever happened in my life. And yeah, so, you know, when you're ready, he was ready and the right person. You know, I might not be the right person, but you'll find the right person. Yeah. Angela, come on, throw it at me. I feel like there's a question there. Got to take you off mute, yeah.
Yes. No, I don't have a question. I'm really, really grateful, for having met you through Zoom, and also Renate. I think she's been very, very brave in sharing as much as she has, and I'm really very, very grateful. I can say yes to all of this. And I really do support your work. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I think we've reached a time where so many people need to be healed, and they need to not be healed by somebody else. They need somebody to facilitate that healing. And I think that this is a very, very good way of doing it, because you're opening a door to, well, another space, basically.
Absolutely.
Because our answers are inside us. We do know this. We knew it before we were born. This is my understanding anyway, and I really do believe that. However, having said that, I was living in Swaziland for many years in South Africa, and I went to see Julius the hypnotist. And it was a very, very interesting experience to watch what happened to people and how their subconscious somehow, or something in them in those days, was able to, well, do incredible feats without their everyday consciousness being there. And he tried to hypnotize us all, and I had enormous resistance to it, because I didn't want to be doing something that he told me that I was going to be doing. And so I didn't pursue that. Then years later, I was invited to go up to Scotland for a regression weekend, or maybe it was more than the weekend, I can't quite remember. Anyway, I did work with somebody, and she told me I'd been to a past life. I wasn't at all sure that I had. I was fully conscious all the time, and I was just following her prompts and, in my terms, making up a story, and I'm quite a logical person. So it wasn't a surprise to me when she said, well, why did you choose those incidents to talk about? I said, well, we started on a story and I just wove a thread and you kept asking me questions and off we went. So I wasn't convinced that I'd actually been hypnotized at all. I'd gone into a state of just enjoying a fantasy in a way. That's how it felt. And then, about 3 years ago, I was quite interested, having read Dr. Michael Newton's books about his work with hypnotherapy, well, his life between lives. That's what my whole interest is in.
Do you know, I was just thinking about that and I was about to say something and I thought, no, I don't want to say anything negative, but yes, sorry, carry on.
Yes, sorry. Well, if you want to say something, I can carry on.
Oh, no, well, I just thought, you know, when I was reading his book, I thought that he was leading people a lot.
Yes, because he was doing his research. It was a research thing that he was doing.
But he was asking leading questions. He was going, you know, so did they cook you dinner?
Yes.
Oh, yes, you know.
Yes.
And did you get burned at the stake? Yes, you know. And I'm like,
yeah, I got a feeling that he was learning how to do it. And I actually appreciate whether or not he was doing it correctly. I have no idea, but he was learning. It was his path. And he does admit, he admits during the book that his problem was that he didn't know really what questions to ask, or he wasn't ready to hear the answers, so they weren't given to him. Anyway, it was through having read that I went to a life between life therapist up here where I live. I live up in North Wales. And so I had a session with her, and admittedly it was broken because she kept getting telephone calls during the session. But I just didn't feel that I went anywhere. It was as though my conscious brain was interfering, or not interfering, but not letting go, not allowing whatever it is that people experience. I mean, when you talk about these incredible experiences you have, I'm really quite green with envy. that you have such incredibly visual and clear outcomes. It's like I don't know. I had an experience the other night. I don't dream very often, but I did have a dream. I woke up with a dream, and I realized I was really annoyed with myself when I woke up, because I realized that I hadn't asked any of the questions that my conscious mind would have asked. In fact, I fell into an old mode of behavior with the person or people that I was with. And I woke
in the dream.
I thought, you silly idiot, why didn't you ask all the questions that you needed to ask? And I'd been thinking about this, and I realized that you step into a totally other world. When you're through the veil or asleep, you're in a totally different space. Your comprehension is totally different. And I think I have a mismatch between my conscious mind and being in that space, because I can't bring my conscious mind into focus when I'm in my sleep space. And
that's what I'm getting for you is that what this is the conundrum actually is that you know that you can do sleep work. You know that you can do this work in your sleep, but you're not. And that's what you're angry about.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've obviously done it before. I bet you did as a kid. I've done it all my life. And my grandmother taught me. I used to have a nightmare of, you know, we're walking home from church and there's a man and he slices a lady with a big knife, and this nightmare kept coming in. I would have been 4, and my grandmother said, well, oh my goodness, why didn't you call the cavalry? And I'm going, what do you mean? She said, well, next time you have the dream, when you sort of just wake from it, wake up, and then call the cavalry and go back down there, and then they'll arrest them and the dream will be gone. And so that was the beginning of that start of, I just thought everyone did it. It wasn't until, many years later that I realized that people don't do this. But a lot of my work is done in my dreams. A lot of the writing is given to me through dreams. I read a script in 6 days, albeit it's a scary one. Producers are just like, it's about the NDE of a psychopath. So, but the dream work is important, but I have a sense that you've done it before, and you just need to remember how to do it. And that is, we can talk about that at some time. But I think with the hypnosis, I know, and this is one thing I do, even for animal communication and things, people want me to communicate with their animal. I'm like, well, I'd rather you do. So I'd rather take you down and you do that communication, because that's empowering, right?
Yes,
And
I would love to have heard your animal communication podcast, or whatever you call this, streaming. It would be
yes.
really, really helpful for me, because that is my mode, actually. That's where I would feel most alive.
Beautiful. Well, I will send you some links tonight. Are you on my Facebook page?
I don't think so, no. I don't use
Okay, have you got a
Facebook.
pen there?
Yes.
Okay, we'll write it down.
Go.
A, N for Nelly, J for John.
Yeah.
I.
Yes.
B for Bob. At
Yes.
gmail.com. I've just given you my email address. Just drop me an email and then I'll send you links to Renate's ones and some other things that might interest you, and then links to each of our pages.
Anjii, thank you very much. That's really nice. I can do that. I've been delighted.
You're welcome.
I'm
You're
glad
welcome.
I was here. Thank you very much. It's been a
You're
wonderful, wonderful morning for us here. Of course,
Thank you.
it's beautiful. Well, it's not, it's raining here, but never mind. It's lovely to have time with you.
Thank you. So what I was just saying was that, like, doing regression therapy, doing past life regressions with with hypnotherapy clients and even animal communications and things, we work with the realms. So we're taking people across the realms to their place where they cross the realms, and we are working between realms when we're doing this. Well, when I'm doing this, sorry, I call myself we sometimes, and they who work will not turn up for people that just want to have a little look around. So if someone sort of says, oh, I want to see how many lives I've had, and if I was Cleopatra, and oh yeah, this I want to see if my dad's still alive, or what, like whatever, things like that, they just won't turn up for. They've got better things to do with eternity than turn up for nosy pokers. Someone says, oh, there's this lady, she can talk to your dogs, so just go and do a reading or something with her. No one's going to turn up. But when people have real questions, when people say, I know I do dream work, I've done it somewhere before, because we already know that for Angela, I want to go in and find within myself that history and bring it through and recall all of these things and bring it into my work. That is clear, right? And that is clear intention. People wanting to resolve, real issues. That's where it works amazingly. So, yes. So that's what I have to say. Gerda, how are you doing?
I just soak it all in, and I have so many questions relating me in my life, and I have to just feel if it's an opportunity for me to take a hypnosis. I don't know yet, but I will feel if it's the right thing for me.
Absolutely. Look, thank you for being here. And look, the time will be right when it's right, and the person that you work with will be right when you find the right person. But I just saw a baby photo on the wall behind you. It reminded me of a woman had really bad, it was her second child, so she didn't understand. The first one was beautifully smooth, but the second child, she had really, really incredible, like debilitating morning sickness. And so I said, well, just go down and stand in the middle of your morning sickness and go to where it was. And she went down and met her baby and had a conversation with the baby, and they talked about lives they'd had together before, and the baby was really looking forward to being here and not to be worried, Mummy, because Daddy's not going to leave you, it's going to be okay. Making me cry thinking about it. And she came back and there was no more morning sickness. So it was her fears and this unborn child popped in from not from her tummy but from wherever he was and comforted his mum. And it's truly beautiful. And I think the key is exactly what Angela was talking about. The key to me is that self re-empowerment is just that. It's self re-empowerment. And if I am guiding you, or I am being a medium or a psychic for you, or doing these things for you, I am just one other person that is further disempowering you from your life force. And to me, the most empowering thing in the world for all of us broken souls, we've all had incredible journeys, and I can just feel everybody's everybody's thoughts are sort of rising up into this energy that we've got here tonight. And everybody's questioning, could I really look at that? Could I, is that, and it's actually sitting out here with us. But to me, there's enough of that without somebody else taking the next meal from us, the next bite out of us. And it's my job to help you re-empower yourselves. And I'm honored to still be alive to do that. And I'm really grateful that you all came tonight. I'm I love Renate and Ernst so much. We just we knew each other. I knew that she was an Indian in the past life. She was a boy, and I was a girl, and we had horses. And next thing, she's doing a regression, and she's an Indian life, and she's going, oh, you're here. And then Tessa popped and said, yes, and I'm here, and I was your horse. And so Tessa was her horse in that life, and Naoli was my horse, which is really amazing, because when I first came to the farm, Naoli was the first one that, when I worked on Renata to show her how this energy worked, Naoli came and stood with me and worked with me. And I think there's sort of there's everybody, as they look around them, that's part of these things. And I know that Ernst, when he did his one, because I'm a Reiki Sage Master, Ernst is now training in Reiki. Renata is now a Reiki Master. I've trained her up to master level, and so we are connected. We have these circles, so we're always spiritually connected. And when Ernst was doing his hypnosis, I started seeing things a split second before they were said, and then next thing Renata sort of said it before he said it, before I said it, and we were all seeing the same thing. And they were riding their horses in the country. I saw her in this beautiful red velvet dress, and he had this beautiful blue velvet coat on. It was very, and then next thing Renata's going, oh, we're riding horses into towns, and before we get to the towns, we take out our good jackets and we walk into town like we're all that. And it was just a three-way conversation. So we were all viewing his hypnosis, which was, it made it a bit difficult to not be leading questions then, Angela, because we were all seeing the same thing. That was an incredible experience, wasn't it, Ernst? To all be like looking at the same. I'm in Australia, you two are in Austria, and we're all going, whoa. And all Ernst could think, what was it you were saying, Ernst? All you could think was,
yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah.
And don't know what to add now.
Well, you were saying that you were in that past life and you're riding your horses to another town, and you were thinking, oh God, what's she getting me into now? Because Renate was taking you off on another adventure.
Yeah. Some
Yes,
things like that can happen.
that's right. That's
That
right.
can happen
So,
easily, yeah.
right. So they were healers going from village to heal people and sort of running up and then, you know, getting people to pay them for, you know, helping them with certain things. And we were joking because I said, I bet before you came to this life, Ernst, when you said, oh God, I'll go with the old girl again in this life. And I said, I bet you said, but only if the people get to come to us this time. And yeah, that's probably why you are where you are. So, yeah, just beautiful journeys. And I love all of you. I'm grateful that you're all here. If there's any more questions, we've got another couple of minutes.
What will be the next talk will be about? Do you have any
The next
plan
talk? Sure. I'm happy to do a talk on out-of-body experiences.
Good.
That's an exciting one, or we can do one on dream work, Angela. And you know, we can you guys pick a subject, and I'm happy to bring it to the table, and all of those that talk through me and throw my curtains around, and yeah. All right.
Okay, so I think we have 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So thank you, Anjii, for this wonderful talk. I really
You're more
appreciate
than
it.
welcome.
Thank you for all of you watching and coming on this call. And yeah, we will meet again. So thank you.
We will.
Thank you,
And
thank
please
you.
all get hold of me on my Facebook page is Anjii Bryers, ANJII, and my second name is Bryers, BRYERS, Anjii Bryers Biofield Therapy. So that's my Facebook page. And yeah, get hold of me there. Let me know that you were here so that we can continue our discussion in the messenger there, or email me. You've got my email address now. So yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Angela, don't forget. Don't be
No.
shy. Sheila, you will be ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I think
It's
I'm
time to
ready.
let it go. I think that's why all those signs have been coming this week, and it might be your person that was here destroying my curtains tonight. I don't know.
I'm sorry,
But,
dear.
yes,
We will find out.
that's right. And Gerda, thank you so much for coming. It was lovely.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Renata. Thank you, Ernst.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.